16th, 2021 meeting of the Ormond Beach City Commission to order. It's 7 p.m. This is our second regular meeting for the month of May, and we are in Commission chambers. I hope you felt welcome this evening by Deputy Fire Chief Tom Bazanos and our Human Resource Manager Samantha Potts. They were our greeters tonight. Every commission meeting we have a couple of our staff, our excellent staff, serve as greeters, and so the Deputy Fire Chief and Human Resources Manager did that for us tonight. And thank you, Tom, and thank you, Samantha. I'd like to introduce the folks who are sitting up in front of you. To my right, your left, Recording Secretary Cassidy Ritz. She's who you give your cards to. Our Assistant City Clerk, Wendy Hans. Commissioner Dwight Selby from Zone 1. Commissioner Troy Kent from Zone 2.
Hey, everybody.
To my left and your right, Deputy Mayor and Zone 3 Commissioner Susan Persis.
Good evening, everyone.
Commissioner Rob Littleton from Zone 4. Our City Manager, Joyce Shanahan. Our Assistant City Manager, Claire Whitley. I'm laughing a little bit because we're all sitting in our normal places tonight. It's a little hard to get used to. City Attorney, Randy Hayes. And for those of you listening online, I'm Mayor Bill Partington. At this time, if you would, please silence your cell phones, and we will have the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, the invocation tonight given by Pastor Scott Smith from First United Methodist Church. Please rise.
Let us pray. God, we come to you on this gorgeous night and we give you thanks. We are grateful that we live in Ormond Beach. There are a lot of other cities that we could be in, and so we are blessed to be here. As we get ready for this commission meeting, Lord, you know everybody has an opinion and they're right. And how we share that opinion and how we share our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, guard our words and our hearts that we may seek not what is right for what we want, but what is right and best for all. We do come together, God, and we pray in this world in which we're living in right now, with how people feel and how people act and how people treat one another. Remind us that love is the better way. And where there is hatred, let us sow love. And where there is anger, let us sow peace. We do lift up, Lord, especially tonight. I'm grateful for the firefighters and the police officers of this city who protect us and serve in so many ways. Watch over them, bless, and keep them. Most of all, God, encircle this city and the people within it. Keep hate without, keep love within. Encircle this city, O God. Keep hope within, keep despair without. Encircle this city, O God. Keep peace within, keep chaos without. Guide us in all that we do. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commission has adopted rules of procedure that allow for 3-minute public comment time. And that's where we're at right now, audience remarks regarding items not on the agenda. At this time, we will hear from those of you who have signed a card to speak about any item which is not on the printed agenda for this meeting. Audience comments generally conclude in 30 minutes. If there's additional comments, we would push those to the end of the meeting, but I have 14 cards. If the commission will indulge me, even though we may run a little bit late, I think we'll try to get through all of those at the beginning, and we'll go from there. So according to the clerk, the speaking topics tonight are on two different subjects. First would be the 56 North Beach Street, and then the Tomoka Oaks Golf Course are the remaining cards. So she separated them in order, and we'll start with 56 North Beach Street. Jerry Orzel.
Jerry Orzel, Ormond Beach, Florida, 137 Rosewood Avenue. Good morning, or good evening, Mayor Partington and City Commissioners. I come before you tonight to ask you to retract the vote you made on May 4th to demolish the Ormond Beach Union Church. I'm not here to save a church. As a follower of Christ, I know the church is made up of the people within and not the structure itself. I ask you to save an opportunity that will be gone forever the second that building comes down. An opportunity to meet with the public and discuss the possibilities of the land and the building itself. As city commissioners, you act as liaisons between the city and the people of Ormond. You are the voice of the people. I ask you to be the ears of the community and listen. Listen to all options from the public, whether it be a demand for a parking lot, a brand new civic center, or repurposing the existing building. Take the time to listen. I ask you to be the eyes of the community and be willing to see with an open mind what possibilities can come before you. No one has asked for a community center due to the fact that's the reason the city purchased the building 3 years ago, as reported in the Ormond Observer, May 2nd, 2018. There is no need to ask for something that you have already offered. Retract the May 4th vote and let's work together as a community. You had a few members of the community speak about what uses the building can offer the city before you voted. Give them more than 3 minutes. Do not let a quick decision to demolish that building become your legacy by not letting the people you took a sworn oath to represent not have a chance to have their voices heard. Take the time. Retract the May 4th vote and hold a minimum of 3 public workshops and let us work as one unified community. I can give you 100 reasons why this city should meet with the public, but I only have 3 minutes. I ask you to give the public one reason why you will not. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Jerry. Next is Julia Truilla.
Good evening, Julia Truillo, 307 John Anderson. I just want to speak very briefly again on the property at 56 North Beach Street. I'm just asking you to reconsider the vote of last commission on the demolition of the church. There is no urgency. The building has sat empty for nearly 3 years. What is urgent is the need to hear what the public has to say about the property in an open forum. Please delay the demolition and hold a public workshop.
Thank you, Julia. And next is Judith Stein.
Hello, Judith Stein, 166 Orchard Lane. I'm a longtime board member of Ormond Main Street, and I'm also president of the Ormond Beach Arts District. Both organizations are asking the city to pause their plans to demolish the church building at 56 North Beach Street. I would like to make one last appeal to you to delay the demolition for a period of time to allow several interested parties to determine if they can formally offer to purchase or lease the building. It would also allow us time to look for funding sources to rehabilitate the property and repurpose it into something the city would be proud of. I just don't understand your hurry to demolish it. What harm is there in waiting a few months? What is the rush, especially since the city has allowed the building to languish for several years? Is it a bow to special interests? Why are you planning to spend taxpayer dollars to demolish the building and turn it into a parking lot? Certainly not the highest and best use for the property, but denying the possibility of a purchase or lease of the property that would add money to the city coffers. The cost to secure it in the short term would be greatly offset by a purchase or lease offer. I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And it doesn't look good to me and many of my fellow voters. I'm sure you've seen the public response to articles and letters on the subject in the press. They are overwhelmingly in favor of saving the building. I did want to mention that the building has been nominated as an 11 to Save structure, a program of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. The Trust recognizes mid-century modern buildings as an architectural style worth preserving, and this 1960 building is a fine example of that type of architecture. In fact, one of the 11 to Save buildings recognized in 2020 was exactly that type of architecture. I implore you to consider a pause to reflect on the best use of this building and the property on which it stands. Get more public input before you tear it down. I can't help but think of the old Joni Mitchell song with the line, "They paved paradise and put up a parking lot." Please don't let this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. And next is Bill Jones.
Evening,
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is Bill Jones, 812 Oaks Trail, Ormond Beach, Florida. And I guess I'm probably the only one here to speak somewhat against the redemption of that building, 56. We went in there and we attempted to do everything we could to figure out a way to repurpose that building and turn it into something that would have some kind of return on investment. What we found was a building that was basically demolishing itself through neglect, very similar to what happened in the Ormond Hotel situation. It got to a point where by the time you do something, it's too late to do it. We figured out that to put a roof on it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 grand. I've had 2 quotes to prove that. I heard that I guess I pay too much money to my contractors. That's not true. What I do is I pay to have the first class, best job done, not some cracker box put up that could blow away in the next hurricane or something that's just filled with plaster and eyesore. So I guess that's why it costs me more money to do stuff. I feel that the value of the building is a little too high. I know the lot across the street is worth money. The other thing too is one of the things that we came up with if we tried to renovate would be to make it into a venue that would be basically like a wedding venue or a meeting hall or a event planning place, which I believe would severely harm one of the most historic buildings you have on that block, which is the Anderson Price building, which lives off the same type of revenue. And also the Ormond Gardens, the other building that you're putting up over there where they host weddings and whatnot and so on. So that was one of the reasons we kind of backed away from it. And the other thing is I'll tell you a little story about a warehouse that I own in Los Angeles that was built in 68. I went in there, it was 35,000 square feet. There was about 2,500 square feet of offices. We came to find out upon a phase 2 environmental survey that the floor, the ceilings, and the gypsum in the walls were loaded with asbestos. And I can't even begin to tell you how much money it costs to mitigate that. So that's another situation. Bringing people in there, we felt unless we gutted the entire interior of the building and did it the right way, you're putting everybody at risk, okay? And that was a common building material at that time. I have no proof it's in there. I didn't take any tests, but I wasn't about to pay for phase 2 to find out the hard way, okay? The parking would help. It actually would help the downtown business area. I'm not gonna lie about that. And I don't believe a parking lot's the prettiest thing to look at. It would have to be something that would be landscaped. It's really gonna help the business owners down there more than me because they're my tenants. It's their problem to find parking, which has been a nightmare down there. I'm stalled on new projects. I have 2 or 3 other things I wanna put up, and I just don't have the wherewithal because I have no place to put these people without hurting the other business. So that's why I'm on that side of it. The building's beautiful, it's nice. If there was a way to save the facade, I'm all for it.
Understood. Appreciate that.
All right, thank you very much.
Ted Brown.
I guess I'm the first one here to talk about Tomoka Oaks, and I don't even live there. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ted Brown. I've lived here in Ormond Beach for 40 years. I lived here when there were 12,000 people, and there's hardly any more fish than people. And there was a little two-lane bridge out here that eventually Bill Chappell from our representative in Washington had built, Department of Transportation. But what I'm trying to say is since 1983, I've owned 3 houses in the trails, and I've seen what expansion can do throughout our roads over there. And today my concern is about the proposed housing development on the vacated golf course. It brings more questions than answers. One is, how many houses are there to be built? Do we know the answer to that yet? No. Number 2, how many trees will be cut? Do we know the answer to that? No. Will there be buffer zones between the houses and the people that live there? And what about the wildlife? They've lived there for decades. I mean, I used to run through there. I'm a runner. I ran through Tomoko Oaks and the trails for 25 years, and I would just marvel at the things I would see. I would see a little coyote running through there. Oh, coyote, what's that? I would see a deer every once in a while if I got up early. And of course, all the other foxes. They had red foxes throughout there. It was just a beautiful thing to watch. But then we're talking about this development and how it will impact the wildlife and also impact the traffic in the trails, because you have Iroquois and you have Rio Pinar, and they're the feeder roads to Tomoko Oaks. So if you build a development in Tomoko Oaks, they're going to get out of there, they're going to get into Rio Pinar, they're going to get into Iroquois, and then they're going to get down the main trail. So if we're talking about 2 cars per house, say there's 200 houses, that's 400 some cars. And I know every house has 2 cars because I've been on these streets. I know them, and I know more than 2. So let's go with the big number, 600. So you have 600 houses, you're going to have 1,200 cars, probably, maybe more. And cars that pollute, cars that speed through the trails, more cars for Tomoko Elementary kids to dodge on their way to school, which we used to have a principal that was up here at one time. Is that right, Susan?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, all of the cars on Granada Boulevard that will cause. It's already tough. Got one more thing to say. When my wife was selling real estate,
All right, Ted,
And
your time
she's-
is up, and we're
she's
gonna
sold-
start now with Missy Herrero. I'm sorry,
Can
we
we
gotta
put-
keep it to 3 minutes.
Okay,
Because if
all
we
right.
do that for you,
All right.
then we gotta start with everybody, and we're here till
Okay.
12 o'clock at night.
well, I hope you got the idea.
We did, thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. Hi, my name is Missy Herrero. I live at 111 North St. Andrews. I've been a resident of Tomoko Oaks for 27 years. As a young couple, my husband and I arrived with a U-Haul of our belongings, and Troy and the Sharifi brothers helped us unpack that day, I think in exchange for a couple big gulps and snacks at 7-Eleven.
We were easy back then, yeah.
And maybe there was like some surf wax as part of the deal. So if I didn't appreciate, as a young mom, if I didn't express my appreciation at the time, I really greatly appreciated it and have fond memories of that day till now. So we raised our girls there. They attended golf camp at Tomoko Oaks Golf Course and developed a lifelong passion of tennis on the courts there with Shirlene Sanders. It has been said that the time for the city to get involved with the Tomoko Oaks Golf Course would have been before the most recent purchase, and that people never really cared about it before now. I've personally reached out several times over the last years and understand that other residents have sent emails and made phone calls as well. In addition to this, in 2019, our homeowner president reached out to the zone commissioner at the time to request a meeting regarding the golf course. The commissioner organized a meeting with the city manager, planning director, and city staff from Public Works with our homeowners president and resident Jim Rose. This was just not another what's going to happen with Tomoko Oaks meeting. This was a meeting where there was a solution presented with data to back it up. The data was research conducted by Collier County on the status of golf and reviews of numerous case studies on golf course conversions. If this information was acted upon, it could have been used as a framework to amend land development code for golf course conversions in Ormond Beach in the event of a future sale. We're seeing preservation all around us. There are countless articles on golf course properties being preserved. Orange County is conducting their due diligence on repurposing 2 golf courses in Orlando to preserve the water components associated with those properties and provide multi-use green space for the community. Winter Garden recently purchased a golf course with an agreement to sell it back to the residents over the next 20 years. St. John just approved $8 million renovation of their municipal course as golf has experienced a massive resurgence since the pandemic. Last month, state lawmakers voted unanimously to double to $100 million the funding for Florida Forever, which preserves environmentally sensitive lands. They also agreed to assign $3 million from federal stimulus funding toward land conservation. We are here to ask you, the leadership of the City of Ormond Beach, to commit city staff and resources for the next 90 days to explore any and all funding sources to purchase some of the Tomoka Oaks Golf Course property back. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley Dufresne.
Hello, I'm Ashley Dufresne. I live at 118 North St. Andrews Drive. I'm here really to provide the voice or give the voice to those that have signed the petition to preserve the land of the Tomoka Oaks Golf Course. These are public statements made on our petition that is currently at 1,680 signatures. Our hope is to get to 2,000 by the end of the week. I highlighted a few that Ormond Beach residents have left on the petition, and I just want to make sure that their voices are heard too, even if they can't be here. So I'm just going to go through and read those really quick. Ellen Wintermuth, she said, we need to preserve the abandoned golf course as green space and possibly turn it into a passive park. Pam Skilling said, maintain our quality of life and preserve the environment's beauty and health for generations who will follow. Janice Lane said, Tomoka Oaks is beautiful and peaceful just the way it is. Filling the old golf course with houses will ruin the neighborhood and increase traffic on Nova Road and Granada. Carrie Leonard, I grew up walking this golf course with my dad, and it would be amazing. It would be an amazing public park nature trail site. Cindy Chesley said, Ormond Beach doesn't need to cram more houses into a space that can be saved as conservation area. Diane Chiquette, again, I don't know these people, so hopefully I'm pronouncing their names right. We don't need any more housing. Traffic is already overloaded, as well as all of our green space. Ursa O'Leary, we have enough housing being built in Ormond Beach and surrounding communities. We need to preserve and maintain our natural environment and wildlife. Marjorie Peckham, this will ruin a beautiful neighborhood and reduce property values, and the traffic increases will be intolerable. Janet Wilbolt, destroying this beautiful area and the residents' backyards is inconceivable. Sylvia Olivia, this will negatively impact my neighborhood. Preserve the land, we have enough houses. Nada Manley, let's save the beautiful area. Heather Mackersey, I want to preserve the old Ormond charm in the neighborhood so many of us grew up in and are now raising our children in. Patricia Ruck, can't develop every vacant lot. Catherine Haroldson, I live in Tomoka Oaks for 40 years. I moved only because I needed a smaller house. In the past 10 years, I've seen a lot of negative things happen in Ormond. Sadly, there's way too much expansion with no thought about our environment. So yes, I will sign this petition. I hope it will do some good. So I do ask that the City Commission take a look at that petition and just know that there's many voices out in Ormond that want to preserve the land, not just people living in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Beth King.
I'm Beth King. I live at 40 North St. Andrews Drive. I've never spoken for 3 minutes or less, ever. I mean, I haven't, that's for sure. So we're scheduled on Thursday to begin talks with the new owners of the golf course. And that's the reason why we're here, because we expect to take those talks with them very, very seriously. And we want to emphasize to you that we want you to do the same. Whatever we do here has a possibility of setting a precedent here for people that even own on Oceanside Country Club. The golf course here, folks have obviously paid property taxes, and the entire area was developed surrounding that golf course. And it was designed for that very thing, the whole area from 1966. I've heard a couple of anecdotal things that kind of concern me one of the other ladies said that this decision only affects the homeowners in Tomoka Oaks, and I would respectfully disagree with that statement because people from all over the county have been questioning this as soon as the word came out that the golf course could be converted to a bunch of homes. I'm going to say that mostly they're expressing shock, and that's a lot of what I have today is shock that this happened because many, many people were believed during the 2008 development, and the opening here for the residential part, that there was a 99-year deed restriction on that property to keep it a golf course. And so there are a lot of concerns out there. We want to ask that you, the city, devote all of the economic development resources possible to kind of identify possible ways that this property can be preserved there. We know that, I read recently, it was kind of interesting, there was a survey there in the Ormond Observer. It says that 75% of the people were willing to pay additional taxes for facilities and programs in Ormond. 32% wanted golf, 39% want nature parks, 49% want walking and hiking trails. That's exactly what this property offers. And Riverbend, of course, is closed. There's a ready-made community to play golf there, and was for 40 years, with Riverbend. We really feel strongly, I'm going to ask everybody to stand up here who's here in support because we can't all speak, that we do not want to proceed in haste in approving anything that doesn't take into account the sensitive nature of this property. And there are plenty of ways to do it. We can leave it to a referendum to the voters if needed to see if they're interested in it. Because everybody here who is interested in Tomoka Oaks at this point, if you would just
Thank you,
stand
Beth.
up.
And next is
Let's
Mary
do it.
Greenlees. Mary
Thank you so
Greenlees
much.
is next, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Good evening. My name is Mary Greenlees. I live at 94 North St. Andrews. I've been a resident of Ormond Beach for the past 45 years and Tomoka Oaks for 20. I'd like to start off by thanking our commissioners for serving our community. I think we can all agree that your job is not easy. It's not easy pleasing everyone, especially when it comes to new development. I can't tell you how many times my husband and I has driven over the Granada Bridge in both directions and looked at one another and reminded ourselves that Ormond Beach is paradise. I understand that we are in the early premature stages of this project, as the developers have not yet submitted the conceptual plans, but I am extremely concerned about the impact of 300 to 350 homes and how it will affect traffic. I believe the PRD in 2006 allowed 122 residents, and now we're going to triple that number in 14 years as our city has grown immensely in that period. I am asking as a longtime resident that the city take a 90-day period to explore the possibility of retaining green space. The traffic issue could be resolved by having fewer homes and cars, while the developers would have a more appealing product to sell. How many cities do we all know that have had good intentions for growth to later find themselves scratching their heads wondering how the traffic suddenly became a liability and not an asset for our community? New Smyrna is a prime example for that, as I believe they had and may still have a moratorium on new construction. A statistic published by the ITE and Institute for Transportation Engineers states that a single-family home would generate 9.45 daily trips. Let's see, multiplied by 350 homes is 3,304 cars. In April of 2001, the National Association of Realtors said that too much traffic can reduce the value of a home. I know 4 families in Breakaway Trails that are leaving because of the excessive traffic. As you all know, I have always encouraged economic growth. It personally benefits our businesses, our families, our neighborhoods, our accounting firm. Exploring the possibility of retaining green space is a perfect solution for everyone. It preserves trees, green space, and our animals. Developers receive funds for soft costs, increasing cash flow and adding value to the property that they are selling. It reduces traffic concerns, less homes, less cars. Small pockets of cities are thinking out of the box, and I think there's 800 golf courses that close nationwide. There are several cities that are thinking out of the box and finding ways to make it work. I am hoping that Ormond Beach could do the same. Thank you very much.
Peggy Brown.
And I have something for you at the end of my talk. People who purchase on a golf course have a certain expectation that they were either going to be living on a golf course or have open space. This is a direct quote from Jason DiLorenzo, one of Palm Coast senior development officers. Does Ormond Beach have land development codes to protect its residents and their lands, or are we behind the times? Does the city of Ormond Beach have strict guidelines when developing golf courses like Bonanno Springs? Those are just some questions. And I moved here 4.5 years ago with the expectation that I would have green space behind my home. I moved here because I loved Ormond Beach and I have family here. The other point that I want to make is the LLC, which bought the golf course property, has 3 managers listed. 2 are local, Mr. Barchet and Mr. Veely. The third, however, is not local. Reuben Sheldon, a known South Florida developer, is listed as the registered agent. His address is Fort Worth, Florida, and is listed as the principal address of the LLC. There is concern among the community that a person or a company that is not a community member may not consider the impact of development upon Tomoka Oaks and the adjacent communities of the Trails, Escondido, and Tahlequah, as well as the whole of Ormond Beach. I hope that you consider the impact of this development or proposed development, and perhaps work with the citizens on keeping it green space. There are many options to explore doing that. Thank you for your time, and my address is 112 North St. Andrews Drive. And I will share this with you. This is the copy of the LLC. I don't do copies for everybody.
We'll make sure the clerk gets one for the public record. Thank you. Susan Klippel.
Hi, I'm Susan Klippel, 303 Rio Pinar. I'm a last-minute addition, not prepared, but I couldn't leave without giving you a little personal story. So I live on the 11th hole. I'm a native of Ormond Beach, born in Halifax Hospital. Grew up in Beaux Arts Circle across the bridge. And when my husband and I moved to Tomoka Oaks, one of the main reasons we moved was the house was gorgeous, and then we had the view, this beautiful view. And we thought it was great until one morning we were both downstairs really early, and we realized you can see the sunrise. You can see the sunrise. In the middle of Ormond Beach, you can see the sunrise in our backyard. And so my husband would get up in the morning and get down there so we could see the sunrise. Well, 3 years ago, my husband unexpectedly passed away. So in the mornings, I open my back curtains, and that sun rises in my backyard, and I say good morning. And I can't imagine a house being back there instead of that beautiful sunrise. And I just couldn't leave without telling you that.
Thank you for sharing that. Tom Fitzgibbon.
My name's Tom Fitzgibbon, and I'm living at 51 South St. Andrews Drive with Denise, right over there. And we're a little bit outsiders here, so we've only been in this neighborhood investigating this neighborhood for 30 years or so, because my father lived down here, and he retired down here. And at that point, I decided to search all of Florida for a great place to live. And the main reason that we ended up here in Ormond Beach is because the town is not too big, not too small. It's got access to the beach. It is ringed by parks, state parks, county parks, just beautiful area. And when we bought a house about 10 years ago, beachside, it's heaven. Okay, we come from Brooklyn. Okay, it's a problem. Okay. And at that point, my wife and I, Denise, fixed up our house with a lot of our muscle. We're continuing to fix up the house that we're living in now, South St. Andrews. And again, we just think it's a great place to live. And we just think that with a development coming in that might be 300 to 350 houses, the golf course that's designed for at most maybe 50 cars, something like that, might have 700 cars all of a sudden trying to enter and exit through basically one main entrance and exit. And that's going to be tough. You can put a light there, that'll help a little bit, but it'll still be a problem. The poor people in Escondido condos, I was talking to Carolyn Brenner, and she indicates that most of the older folks don't even have email. In other words, they're going to have trouble getting in and out of that entrance and exit. It's going to be really tough on those folks. It's going to be tough on the Trails folks. It's going to be tough on the Tomoka Oaks folks. So just please consider the impact on everyone around this proposed development. And lastly, I'd love to see a public golf course in Ormond Beach. We don't have one at this point. We just, if we could do 9 holes, 3 holes, anything. So please help us out a little bit and help out the community a bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Williams.
Good evening. I'm here to represent Civil Discourse Part 2, Common Ground. And I was actually invited to come back with the first group regarding the church, but I can see it's great I come in at the end because this could be useful for either group, anybody that wants to work something out with the city, with the developers. And I wrote you a little poem about that today, that we want to represent the smallest creatures and the biggest developers and the walkers, the bus ride, everybody. And by that, and I thought, well, why would I talk to them again? I invited them last time to work with us on the church thing, and that's already been decided upon. And why would you want to open up the can of worms, so to speak, and re-talk about that, even though there's others who want to not re-talk about it, but come together on that. And I thought, well, probably, I put myself in your shoes, which is what we do in Common Ground, and said probably because I haven't really fully explained what Common Ground is. Most people probably think it's finding a compromise, but it's not at all. So the reason you might want to open it up again and also work with developers and these folks alike together with us moderating that is that we're not looking at anything we've thought up yet. The way it works is through a process called synergy. And there are people called synergists in the world. So I consider myself a synergist now, in addition to a therapist. And so the way it works is you bring all the facts and stuff together. And like we do this on Zoom once a month now, and we're talking about roads and transit. And you bring the facts together the first 15 minutes and what everybody wants to put in there. And then for an hour, we spend brainstorming. So everybody's energy comes together, and it's really amazing. It's kind of like magic. So it's not like, I want this, I want that. It's a creative process. So I'm hoping it's going to be useful to you in dealing with both of these issues, but opening back up thoughts and input from, and then at the last 15 minutes, after, I say I'm running out of time, after we've brainstormed, it's amazing. It's almost like some magic happens, and people start saying, oh yeah, we could do that, we could do this or that. It's not an either or about that building. It's not an either or about anything. And then at the end, we summarize what's happened and what's next. What's the next step? It might take more than one session. Okay.
Thank you, Linda. And the last card I have doesn't even put his first name anymore. It's just Schultz. Jim Schultz. We know who you are.
Jim Schultz, 117 Harvard Drive. I'd like to thank you for not having censorship, because let's face it, big tech and the Health Service, World Health Organization, CDC, and many of the federal agencies are organizing extreme censorship. I always thought the First Amendment was sort of important. They think it's a liability because their integrity lacks. So the less you know, the more you trust them. I've just read an article, I haven't sent you a link yet. Dr. Mercola, Mercola.com, who happens to live locally, put it on his website, which is censored in many ways. But the point is, you can get there, Mercola.com. And it's one of the most respected and published doctors, masters in public health, people out there who, when he saw COVID come along, he was alarmed. He knew it was going to be a disaster. He totally focused everything that he was doing on COVID. He came up with a protocol that actually doesn't kill people and actually cured them. It's rather simple, sort of inexpensive, similar to what the frontline doctors did. It included ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Why? Because they work. And they knew they worked because they've been around for decades as incredibly safe. And they're great antivirals. But again, they're damn cheap. That doesn't pass the test for anybody who's working hard to make a pharmaceutical company rich. He figures that his protocol, which you can read in detail, it's rather simple, would have saved 50% minimum of the lives of those that died, up to 85%. You look at it, it would have. Why? Because what they did is they kept people out of the hospital until they got sick enough that they had to put them on a ventilator. And then, quite often, they were severely damaged or died. They didn't use known treatments. They were waiting for remdesivir. Remdesivir was a total failure, but they approved it anyways, and the World Health Organization told them it was a failure. But it's the only approved drug in the United States. What a deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And now we move to approval of the minutes. The minutes have been sent to the commission for review, posted to the city's websites. Any additions, deletions, or corrections, commission?
I move approval of the minutes from the commission meeting on May 4th, 2021.
Second that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. And the minutes will be shown passed unanimously. And now we move to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull any item of the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item F.
And I'd like to pull item D.
I'll move the consent agenda absent items D and F.
I'll second that motion.
Please call the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. 6D.
Resolution number 2021-87, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an interlocal agreement for the distribution of proceeds of the local option fuel tax and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2021-87, read by title only.
Thank you. Just need a motion and a second.
Move approval.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Commissioner Kent.
Yes. Commission, Ms. Shanahan, I just fail to see where this is a good deal for Ormond Beach residents. And I don't like voting on things that aren't good deals for Ormond Beach residents. Our fuel tax in Volusia County is one of the highest, I believe, in the state. And I see in the staff report that the percentage will stay the same, but the methodology on the miles instead of population is what is going to give us our revenue loss of $230,000. It's a lot of money. But it's written in the report, but don't worry, it doesn't say don't worry, but that's how I read it. It's a phased approach of only $45,000 this year. It just seems like, and Ms. Shanahan, unless I missed something, the city is getting less and the county is getting more. Is that accurate?
Not exactly.
Okay.
The city is getting less. Initially, it was projected to be $400,000 less, so it's a little bit better than it was supposed to be. But the real issue is that other cities are getting more revenue because of how the formula is constructed. Kelly can talk about it in specific detail, but we've worked for months.
It says 3 years that the managers have been meeting.
Yes, we have.
Is that what I mean? 3 years.
Yes.
So that tells me that the managers have had some heartburn over this because it's less money for our municipality.
Well, in particular, what we needed was we needed a majority of cities and population to agree with the losing side, our city, New Smyrna Beach, a few others, to say that they would like to keep the same formula. And we didn't have enough population from those cities to get to that point. Because other cities that were getting more money had more than 50% of Volusia County's population. So
Is the county getting any more money, or are they basically
I think
even
they're
Steven?
staying the same. Kelly can respond to that.
No, the county is getting the same percentage.
Right.
So they'll only get more money if the overall amount goes up. But as the city manager said, the real issue, and I'll just speak to your point that you made initially, this is not a good deal for the city of Ormond Beach.
Okay.
Right. So
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for putting
We
that on the
agree
public
with that.
record. This is not a good deal for the residents of
we
Ormond
lose
Beach.
$45,000 next year, and over the course of the 5 years, we'll be at a over $200,000 loss
Gotcha.
per year.
Thank you. Thank you
Right.
very much. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of the strategy, I think, from the city's perspective to delay this for 3 years, as long as we did, was that formula was good for us. We were getting a disproportionate share of the revenue based on, the new formula. So, I don't know. I do have a question, though, regarding this, and that is electric vehicles don't pay any gas tax. Has there ever been any discussion at the local level, at the county level, to tax right now electric vehicles, drive on the roads for free?
There's been some chat about that, but that never took traction anywhere.
Good point, though.
Right. I'll say that, of course, this is providing a lot of heartburn for us. I know, but I know Joy's been fighting for us for 3 years that's why I'm gonna approve it today. But yeah, it's a rough one for us.
I agree with Commissioner Littleton, but I have total faith in City Manager Shanahan to, recommend we do the best thing for the city.
And what happens if we don't approve it? I mean, we're just one city out of 16.
I don't quite know the answer to that. I think that they need the resolutions to divvy up the formulas. I don't know the answer to that.
Kelly, do you know?
Yeah, that's a good question.
No, I don't know specifically. So for the past 2 years, what we've done is the agreement that was in place 2 years ago had expired. So we continued the existing agreement, right? And we've had these conversations over and over and over again. And of course, we're on the losing end of this, as are other cities as well. We're not the only ones that are going to get less. But this is a majority vote. So if the other cities who have higher populations approve it, which there's no reason they would not, it likely would pass, and then we would be essentially receiving what is in this memo, right? So if the majority of the cities do not pass it, then we go to a default formula. So that would be the other option, but that's unlikely to happen. Because obviously there are more cities that are gonna receive more money than the cities that are gonna lose money.
That gives us a good reason to vote against it, doesn't it?
That's where I'm wondering. I mean, so there's no downside really to
Well,
voting against it.
I think the county will need some sort of interlocal agreement between us and them to give us the money, or do we get it directly from the state?
We get this directly from the state, yes. So what's gonna end up happening is once all of these resolutions are passed or not passed by the individual cities, it'll all go to the county. They're gonna, of course, pass it, and then they'll send that to the state. And then the state will disperse the money based upon those agreements.
Would we save money if we vote against it?
No.
Okay.
It's very unlikely. I mean, we would have to have these other cities who are losing money on the same side as us, and additional cities who are gonna vote for this because they're gaining money on the same side as us. And that's why this has gone on for, it's been more than 2 years, actually. This was in the finance director's lap 3-4 years ago, right? So, we're not on the winning end of this, that's for certain.
Commissioner Catlin.
And I'll just, state publicly, I think that Ms. Shanahan and Ms. McGuire and everybody else involved in this, I think that you have done the best job you could. And, when you're battling that almighty dollar, and you have other groups, cities, municipalities that will benefit, it's very difficult to make this come out smelling like a rose for Ormond Beach. But it still stinks. And this isn't okay. So I'm 1 of 5, and I'm going to be a no vote. And that might give Ms. Shanahan a little indigestion, maybe not. Okay, good. But when we're going to take in less money than we had been taking in, that's not good for Ormond Beach. And that's why I'm a no for it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm a no as well. This hasn't sat well with me, Joyce, since it's been brought up. And despite your best efforts, you've done the best you can, but still not happy with it. So I'll be a no vote. Anyone else?
I'm not exactly clear on what a no, if this commission turns this agreement down, are we in jeopardy that we wouldn't get any money? Because there wouldn't be a resolution that would be tendered to the state. So how would the state directly pay us? I'm not sure
My
that.
understanding is the resolution goes back from the county to the state. And I don't want to tell you that we're not going to end up having to come back here and tell you, in order to get our funds, we're going to have to pass this resolution.
Maybe this is a question for the city attorney. Randy, what, if we vote this thing down?
Well, if you vote it down, it means you're not a participating party to the agreement. In paragraph 10 of the agreement, which is page 7 of 26, provides that it shall become effective if prior to August 31, so they've got a few months, it shall have been executed by the county and participating municipalities representing a majority of the population. So that's the key term right there. So in order for the agreement to fail on its face, then virtually a majority of the municipalities representing a majority of the population would have to not approve the agreement. That is very unlikely, especially if some of those municipalities stand to gain more, not less. So we're kind of on the losing end of the stick. Now, there is a statutory scheme that kind of defaults back to the state. And I'm not intricately familiar with the provisions in Chapter 218, which is what this is derived from, to give you that answer. I suspect that if this city and other minority cities elect not to approve it, one, it'll send a message to the county that you're not happy with it. You may ultimately end up with the same amount of money in the pot anyway, but that's something that we can certainly revisit with the county. And the other option is you end up with no money, right, if you're not a participating party. So those are your two options. You either end up by default with the money under the agreement if you don't approve it, or you end up with zero.
I thought you.
What would happen if we're not a participating party, Randy?
Well, I don't have a good answer to that question at this particular moment, because a lot of it would depend on how many other cities would elect not to participate. If a majority of the municipalities that represent a majority of the population chose not to approve this, then essentially this agreement would not be effective, because that all has to be approved by August 31, and then the county would either have to get busy and try to patch things up with the cities, or would likely default back to the other agreement if it's still in effect, I suspect. That's the short answer to the question. What the agreement does not address, however, is what happens in the event that one or two cities that are in the minority don't approve it, but the majority of the other cities do. What happens to the minority parties? And that's not addressed by the agreement. So we can look into that and get you a better answer to that question, but I don't have an answer for you this evening. I do know, though, that the county's looking to have this approved on or before August 31st, so there's a little bit of buffer time there.
We can table this if you like, and then bring it back once we've gotten those answers.
Or you can table that, correct.
I would be in favor of that, for sure.
So is that a motion?
I move to table this until we get further information.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on tabling? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Selby?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. 6F.
Resolution number 2021-89, a resolution authorizing and directing the execution of an interlocal agreement between the County of Volusia and the City of Ormond Beach for installation of 4 radar feedback signs along North Beach Street and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2021-89, read by title only.
I don't have any cards. Just need a motion and a second.
I move approval.
Second the motion?
All right. Any questions? Commissioner Selby, I think you pulled this.
Yeah, I pulled it. I read through the package. I drive the entire length of this street from Tomoka State Park to Granada multiple times every day. Speeding is not a problem. In fact, the opposite is a problem. Frequently, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. Frequently, people run stop signs to make a turn onto Beach Street, and then they go 25 or 30 miles an hour down the entire length of Beach Street, all the way down to Granada. Also, several years ago, the county made this a no-pass zone. They double yellowed Beach Street, the entire length of Beach Street, all the way to Pine Tree Drive, from Granada to Pine Tree Drive, even in the state park. You cannot pass anywhere. So if you're just trying to conduct business or go to the grocery store and you're behind somebody going 25 miles an hour, you do that for several miles. This is not needed. It's not necessary. And frankly, as the commissioner for most of that area, I don't recall one citizen reaching out to me complaining about speeding on Beach Street. So I'm a no vote on this.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes. maybe the chief could let us know, is there a speeding issue that you're aware of on Beach Street?
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor, Commissioners. Yes, we do have one individual on, it's actually Mr. McCullough is his name. He calls in frequently about speeders. We do deploy resources out there. We usually have the speed radar feedback sign out very near his home, and he does complain about speeders.
And are many tickets given out on that street?
I don't have that information.
You don't know?
But I know they go out and they work it and they report back that they actually went out and worked it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Kent.
Yeah, interesting this was pulled. I was going to pull it, but for a different reason, and that was the county wants to partner with us 50-50 on this. But with the gas tax, not so much. And when I read through this, because I used to make that drive 5 days a week, and when I read through this, what jumped out at me was, why North Beach Street? I've heard way more complaints from John Anderson. We put the stop signs on John Anderson, but I still have people that will reach out to me and talk about the speeding on John Anderson or even Riverside Drive. I hear it there as well. I'm not a no on this, but those were just my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else for the chief? Thanks for not activating your taser axe on video.
Thank you.
And we'll go with Sean Finley next.
Just to give you a little bit more backup, we were approached by the county. They too received comments and concerns from citizens about North Beach Street. They approached us with the opportunity to partner. We were getting ready to, and we're in the process of doing some traffic calming. We brought to you the traffic calming program. This is in addition to this. This does not supplant any of the activities that we're doing as part. I'm sorry. It's a county street. It's also a collector road, which we can do things like speed tables and chicanes and those types of constructive things to do. Radar feedback signs have been shown in studies to help people, remind them of what speed they're going. It seemed like a good partnership for us. We've worked with county. We try to work with county whenever we can. They're providing them. They're proposing them in some logical locations. On the south end at Rosewood as you're heading northbound, at Inglesia as you're heading southbound, and right there at Domicilio on either side, so that you have two as you're headed north, two as you're headed south. A lot of our traffic concerns are subjective. We do get a lot of people who maybe think people are going faster than they are. I think this is we felt this was a good faith effort to the residents in that area, not just on North Beach Street, but also on some of the side streets, to help remind, be mindful of the speed limit as you go on this street, as you go on the side streets. And that's why when the county approached us to do as a 50-50 partnership, we felt that it was a good opportunity for us to work with the county to provide some traffic calming and reminders to the drivers.
Any other questions for Sean? Thank you for that, Sean.
Yeah, just a quick one. I mean, you brought up traffic calming, the ordinance that we passed, but this road is exempt from our ordinance, correct?
It's exempt from our ordinance, but this was in addition to that, and this is a county roadway. So they were proposing it. They're looking for some assistance from us to partner with it.
And if you think if we say no, they're not going to spend the $25,000, or do you think they're going to do it either way?
They would probably say no. If we say no, they would probably they're looking for partners with us. I saw the traffic engineer this afternoon at the TPO at the technical coordinating committee of the TPO. They're working with some of the other municipalities on similar type initiatives, and this was just one in Ormond Beach that they identified as being where they get a lot of concerns from, and known as the county roadway. They reach out to the county as often as they reach out to us.
So in my personal opinion, it's a $25,000 expenditure. They're asking for half. The county's asking for half from us, which I think fundamentally is a feel-good action, and I'm a no. I don't think it'll reduce the speeding. I don't even acknowledge that there is a speeding problem. There may be some residents who think people drive too fast in front of their house. I don't know, but I know that there's equally, if not more, of a slow driving problem on Beach Street, not a speeding problem. So I'm a no.
Anyone else? Commissioner Littleton.
I have one of these on Hand Avenue around the corner from me. My initial reaction when people tell me is they like it. But this is mostly your zone, Dwight, so I'll defer to you, you know. Citizens will hate you for it maybe if it gets voted down, but I'll vote no. I'll vote no on it.
Anyone else? Please call the vote on 6F.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton?
No.
Commissioner Selby?
No.
Commissioner Kent?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. And we move to comments on consent agenda items. Any commissioner?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to comment on item G.
Yes, sir.
Item G is the hiring of a consultant to do something that I've been asking for, I don't know, well over a year, or at least as long as Avalon Park has been, you know, on our minds. And this is well, I'll boil it down to it's a lot more than this, but a net present value analysis of the utility agreements for the western service area, which is fundamentally our responsibilities associated with the Avalon Park development. And I'm glad to see that we're finally doing something with this. I'm disappointed that it's a sole source agreement, $43,000 to a consultant, when there is only one. I guess it didn't even go out for bid, right? Because we just selected that company.
No, we put it on Demand Star, and we list that this is a sole source and what we're looking for, and it stays out there for a week, 5 days, for anybody else to solicit proposals, and we didn't receive any.
And I'm also disappointed at the timing on this. I mean, it's May now. This could take, I believe, 2 or 3 months before we see anything. I also don't like the fact that when the consultant is done with their final report, they don't present it to the commission. They present it to staff. So we don't have the opportunity to ask the consultant about this analysis. And it's very detailed. It's going to tell us what do we need to live up to the agreement. It's going to tell us what do the agreements say. It's going to talk about impact fees and study impact fees and the flow of those monies. It's going to talk about wholesale water and sewer rates, which we've had multiple discussions about and frankly have never gotten a legitimate answer on whether or not we even make any money at wholesale. So I'm very concerned about. I'm glad that we're working on it and it's already passed, but those are my reservations regarding this.
Very good. Anyone else? Thank you. We'll move to first reading of ordinances 7A.
Ordinance number 2021-18, an ordinance approving the final plat for the Ormond Grand subdivision, a planned residential development, establishing conditions and expiration date of approval, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2021-18, read by title only.
Thank you. We'll go to Planning Director Stephen Spraker.
Good evening, Stephen Spraker, Planning Director. This is a request for the Ormond Grand property shown on the screen to refresh the Commission's memory. This is US 1. The entrance at Ormond Lakes is here, and it incorporates this entire property. Back in December, both the plan development, which was the overall zoning document, and the preliminary plat were approved. In January, construction started. They're probably 65–70% the way through. So at this time, what they're seeking to do is to subdivide the land per the plan development. Staff has reviewed it, City Attorney's Office has reviewed it, and we have an independent city surveyor reviewing it. All recommend approval. We believe it's consistent with the development order and the preliminary plat, and the applicant's here if there's any questions.
Thank you, Stephen. I don't have any cards. Any questions for Stephen?
Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? Wendy, please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Selby?
Yes.
Commissioner Kent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. 8A.
Resolution number 2021-91, a resolution approving the use of geometric patterns on the facade of the Publix at 101 East Granada Boulevard and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2021-91, read by title only.
Thank you. And again, Planning Director Stephen Spraker.
Good evening. As Publix renovated the former Lucky's Market, one of the things that they sought to do was to provide some visual interest to the building. It is a hard building to redevelop. One of the concepts they came up with was some geometric pattern. Geometric patterns aren't something that city staff can approve. It is a city commission action, so we are bringing it to you tonight. There's some of the work that has already been done, so we don't believe it has any negative impacts. We also brought it to the Main Street, to their design committee and the board. They recommended approval, thought it was a nice touch to redevelop the building. Staff is recommending approval. If there are any questions, we're more than happy.
Any questions for Stephen?
Yeah, Stephen, can you just back up to so will the geometric patterns be across all of the facade?
So it looks like it's focused on this side here.
Yeah.
For some reason, they didn't carry it over to the western part of the building. We can certainly ask them if
Okay.
it's not really balanced. But
Yeah. Any other questions?
I move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Sure.
Commissioner Campbell.
So this is not my zone, but like, I just act like it is, Commissioner Selby. And, you know, as a kid, with Food Lion there, which, by the way, was the only grocery store in town that carried King syrup, for those of you that wanted to know about that. And then Lucky's was there with great fanfare, and, you know, when that news came out, that was like a bad dream. I really was concerned about that corner. And then Publix comes through, and I'm shocked and pleasantly surprised and extremely happy. And across the street in my zone, you have the Orr Memorial Art Museum getting an unbelievable addition and makeover. And it's just, it's a hot spot in Ormond Beach right now. And I'm pleased that we have these types of rules, and this has to come before us with the use of geometric patterns. The Casa del Mar is one that came before us, and it looks great. And then, you know, if you want to use some lighting, like you have to come before us as well, like the Maverick. And I just won't say anything about that one. So I approve both of those. But to me, this is aesthetically pleasing, and it looks great, and I agree with you very much that it's a tough building, and this helps, it helps the building. So I am completely in favor of this.
Anyone else? Wendy, could you please call the vote?
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. Reports, suggestions, requests, and tonight we'll start with City Manager Joyce Shannon.
I'm trying to figure out this microphone. Thank you. As you recall, we talked about holding a transportation workshop. I spoke with Miriam Diaby, who's helping us with that workshop, and she suggested a date of August because June and July are very tough months for FDOT because it's their beginning of their new fiscal year. So we're looking at a date of August 4th at 5:30, and we'll be talking about Nova Road and A1A. CIP and draft budget workshops for the commission are July 6th at 5:30, and then the operating budget will be at July 20th at 5:30. And then you have master plan, Parks and Rec master plan workshops in August and January. As you know, we're back to getting to normal with our events. Leisure services is, the summer camps are standing up as normal. The only trouble that we're having is similar to what everybody else is having, and that is finding enough employees to do the summer camps. So our size will only be limited by the number of camp counselors that we're able to secure. They're working very diligently at that right now. Our special populations group, they take a higher level of camper to staff ratio, and it doesn't appear that we're going to be able to meet that this year. They need, I think, 7 or 9 counselors for just, a dozen or so people. So we're still trying to stand that up if we can. The Performing Arts Center, they're already looking at trying to book shows beginning as early as they can. It's likely July will be the first date for that. August has traditionally been an off month for performances in general. That's the break month that they take. But we're hopeful that because of COVID and they haven't had any events, that they will be willing to book those in August. We have our Memorial Day celebration on Monday the 31st at 9 a.m. And then we will have back to our Friday night movies June 1st, whatever that date is. Is it the 1st? No, it can't be the 1st. It's I don't seem to have June 4th is the date, and that will be Dr. Doolittle. So we're pushing that out, and I think Realty Pros is already working. They often sponsor those movie events, so we're hopeful that they will do that on the first comeback to that. A.M. Weigel is working to complete the east wall. The building looks great if you haven't seen it, so we're progressing along that. The Florence Street on-street parking was paved last week. The contractor will begin striping the spaces later this week. The US 1 force main and water main continues to progress, and work is expected to be substantially complete by August. The adaptive signalization, as we learned last time, is in its collection mode, and that should have ended yesterday, and then they should go to a adaptive mode, so we're looking forward to seeing that. South Ormond Neighborhood Gym expansion, the bids were received this week, and staff is finalizing the contract, and we'll bring it to you probably at your, not your first meeting in June, probably your second meeting in June. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for the city manager? Assistant City Manager Claire Whitley. Thank you, Joyce.
Good evening. 2 weeks ago, you recognized the police department in Ormond Beach during National Police Week, and it was a great to hear them honored in such a serious way, but I thought I'd share a couple of photos. A lot has happened since then. So this is Sergeant Willis and Chief Godfrey leading in 120 officers on the Unity Tour coming into the city from Granada, coming from the west into the east. And I'm sure you saw the beautiful pictures Darlene did in the Observer. The ladder truck was there, the fire department, the police, the MRAP vehicle. It was just, it was such a great welcome. And they were beaming, all of them. It was just a great moment, and all the other agencies seemed to really enjoy that the city came out and welcomed them. And then this week, Chief Godfrey celebrated 10 years with the city, so it was just a fun week, and getting to see the department's pride and camaraderie and all the support they had for one another was just great that it coincided with National Police Week as well. So just wanted to share that and celebrate Chief Godfrey. Thank you. It's great to work with you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. City Attorney Randy Hayes.
No, sir, I can't top that. Thank you.
And we start tonight with Commissioner Ken.
All right. New mics, new podium. I mean, you know, new paint. Place is looking great. Thank you, Ms. Shanahan. The South Arbor Drive, the residents there were under the impression that in this spring, like now, they would be getting some work done to help them with the flooding, and that is not looking like that's going to happen until next year. So, Ms. Shanahan, can you have staff reach out to those residents and just communicate with them? You know, communication's a big part of it, and just let them know where we are in the process and a timeline. That would be great. I had the pleasure of attending the Police Department Awards and Promotion Ceremony last week, and what a treat that was. You know, it was great seeing our employees receive the recognition that they so very much deserved, and it looked like everybody was having a fantastic evening. Chief Godfrey, Chief Sievers, you are both excellent chiefs, and you run very good departments, and I'm very appreciative that you all have chosen Ormond Beach as not only your homes, but where you want to not only work but lead your departments. And there's a lot of men and women that learn from you every day. Last but not least, Ms. Shanahan, I appreciate you more every year, it seems like. You are impressive, you are tenacious, you are a hard worker, and I thank you for doing the job that many would run from. It's almost like you remind me of a firefighter. Like, everybody runs from a fire, but firefighters run into a fire to help. And, you know, people would run away from a job like that, and you run into it. And I just wanted to say, from the Zone 2 Commissioner, thank you. Good night.
Deputy Mayor Persis.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Chief Godfrey for 10 years. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. I'm really excited for you. And we do sincerely appreciate Chief Stevers, too, for coming to Ormond Beach and bringing such great firefighters to our city. So we appreciate you as well. I just wanted, the speakers that are here that spoke tonight, I just want to thank you for coming. You know, I was thinking, we all may not agree on everything all the time, but most of the time we do agree, and I think we need to focus on those things rather than what we don't agree on. And I just want to throw that out there, just for what it's worth, to let people know that I do listen and I do care, and we all make our decisions, and doesn't mean that we won't agree next time. And then lastly, a dear friend of mine, Nancy Lohman, has written a book. You know, Nancy Lohman has done, and her husband Lowell have done so much for our city in Ormond Beach and for the whole county of Volusia. But she's recently written a book called Blossom, and it's just an amazing book. And if you're interested in reading it, it's called Blossom by Nancy Lohman, and you can order it from Amazon, of course, Amazon.com. And it's a great read, so I encourage you all to go out and get it if you're interested. You know, it's just another talent she has, and I'm just real proud of her. And with that, I'll say good night.
Thank you. And Commissioner Littleton.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, it was great seeing you leading the charge at the Police Unity Tour, and a wonderful job at the Police Award Ceremony. You got 2 years out of the way with that ceremony, and we have some great officers in our fine city. Joe Daniels, thank you for inviting the commission to a celebration of African American history in Ormond Beach. That was also a wonderful event. Thanks for inviting me. I'll say good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Selby.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Godfrey, congratulations. A decade with Ormond Beach, that's great. You have run a great department, and the awards and promotion ceremony was very impressive. You know, I was left with the feeling that how great it would be to have, obviously it's impossible, but to have all of the residents of Ormond Beach experience that, because the depth of things that our officers are involved in, and the cases that they're involved in, and the outcomes and the danger that they face is pretty impressive. And I really think the average person does not recognize that those types of activities happen in our sleepy little community, you know, our shining city by the seashore. So thank you, and thank you for recognizing them and sharing that with us. And with that, I'll say good night.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Joe Daniels, you did a great job setting up the very first African American community celebration back on May 8th. It was awesome to be together again with human beings in public. I mean, we still wore our masks, but there was a good crowd out there, very well distanced in the gymnasium, and Commissioner Littleton represented, as well as City Manager Shanahan, Chief Godfrey, Officer Stokes, and a great crowd to celebrate an excellent history in our city. So thank you for putting that on, and I think it was a huge, huge success. Our police department does an amazing job oftentimes in difficult circumstances. Our fire department does an amazing job frequently in difficult circumstances. And as we move forward, now that we are coming out of the pandemic and we have the opportunity to have robust public input, I think we need to look at pulling off the shelf the report on the Emergency Operations Center for our police, fire, and public works folks. And I'd like to see an Emergency Operations and Training Center that would be a premier location for our employees so that during hurricanes they have appropriate facilities to sleep in, to eat in, and to live in, essentially when they have to work 24/7 for extended periods. I think it's something that this city needs. We should make it a priority. When you hear the stories of how the police officers sleep during these hurricane events, it's not a way of living that any of us would put up with, so we should not require our employees to put up with that. There's some great locations in that report. There's all kinds of opportunities, not just an emergency operations center, but make it a training facility as well that could be used by the entire county. And I think that's something we need to look at moving forward. So I'll just put that on the record, and with that, I will say good night.